AC Mac, AC Mac, we outside. Talking about we don't be outside.
The legacy of the Hoover Criminal Gangs is a testament to the enduring and complex nature of gang culture in South Los Angeles. From their origins as the Hoover Groovers to their current status, the Hoovers have navigated a landscape marked by rivalry, alliance, and transformation. Their story is not just one of conflict and violence, but also of community identity and survival in the face of socio-economic challenges. As we reflect on the history of the Hoover Criminal Gangs, we are reminded of the broader narrative of urban life in Los Angeles, where the echoes of the past continue to shape the realities of the present and the possibilities of the future.
We consider ourselves Crips when all we do is kill ourselves Crips when all we do is kill Crips. That's why we turned criminals. That's why we turned criminals and started wearing orange.
The Hoover Criminal Gangs, known as HCG, are a collective of African-American street gangs rooted in the west side of South Los Angeles, California. Named after Hoover Street, which runs between Vermont Avenue and Figueroa Avenue, the Hoovers encompass a variety of individual gangs unified under the Hoover Criminal Gang banner. The Hoover Criminal Gangs are recognized for their distinctive use of the Houston Astros theme gear, particularly drawn to the orange hue prominent in the Astros uniforms. This preference for orange has led the Hoover Criminals Gang to adopt it as their signature color. Additionally, they are known to wear Houston Astros baseball caps, utilizing the prominent H emblem as a symbol for Hoover. Among the Hoover subsets, the 5 Deuce Hoover Gangster Crips are unique in that they continue to wear blue in conjunction with orange. The Hoover Criminals trace their roots back to the 1960s, initially known as the Hoover Groovers. This group predates the formation of the Crips and was deeply embedded in the local community. The transition from Hoover Groovers to becoming part of the broader Crips alliance was marked by a tragic event: the murder of a founding member's younger brother, for which the West Side Crips were initially blamed. To address the growing tensions, the Hoover Groovers and the West Side Crips convened at St. Andrews Recreation Center, located between Manchester Boulevard and 89th Street. This meeting led to a pivotal alliance between the two, redirecting their suspicions and accusations towards the Figueroa boys. This shift in blame culminated in a violent confrontation, where the leader of the Figueroa boys was beaten at a nightclub in Los Angeles, signifying a significant moment in the history of gang alliances and conflicts in the area. In the mid-1970s, aligning with the West Side Crips led to a significant shift for the Hoovers, who transitioned from being known as the Hoover Groovers to adopting the Crips identity, thus becoming the Hoover Crips. This change marked a deeper integration into the wider network of Crips-affiliated gangs. By 1979, the gang landscape was further complicated by a feud between the Rollins 60s neighborhood Crips and the 8 Trey Gangster Crips, leading to a division where gangs had to choose sides. Those aligning with the Rolling 60s adopted the neighborhood Crips or Deuces identity, while those with the 8 Treys became part of the Gangster Crips faction, also known as Treys. The Hoovers identified with the Gangster Crips, specifically branding themselves as Hoover Gangster Crips. The murder of Raymond Washington, a founding member of the Crips, in August 1979, in a drive-by shooting, added to the turmoil. The East Side Crips accused the Hoover Crips of being behind Washington's death, igniting a fierce and enduring conflict between the Hoover Crips and the East Side Crips, further entrenching the divisions within the Crips alliances and contributing to the complex web of gang rivalries in Los Angeles. In the 1980s, amid the crack epidemic that swept through South Central Los Angeles, the Hoover Gangster Crips emerged as one of the most prominent groups involved in the drug trade. Their association with figures like Ricky Freeway Ross, a known drug lord, underscored their influence in the narcotics market. By the mid-1980s, the group, now feared for their involvement in gun violence, became prime suspects in gang-related shootings, contributing to their notoriety in South Central LA. As the decade progressed, their rivalries with other Crip factions deepened, leading to increased violence and conflict. In a significant shift during the 1990s, the Hoovers distanced themselves from the Crips, adopting criminals in place of Crips in their name. Adopting the monikers ABK, Anybody Killer, or EBK, Everybody Killer, they signaled a willingness to engage in conflict with a broad spectrum of groups, including Bloods, Crips, and even Rolling O's, as indicated by graffiti tags like BK, Blood Killer, CK, Crip Killer, and OK within their territories. This approach mirrored the stance of many Mexican-American street gangs in South Los Angeles, which typically maintain allegiance only to the Mexican mafia. By declaring an all-out war against not just rival gangs, but potentially anyone, the Hoover Criminals effectively ended many of their previous alliances, isolating themselves further within the gang landscape of Los Angeles. The Hoover Criminals gang, with its roots deeply entrenched in South Los Angeles, has been at the center of numerous conflicts with various Crip factions, including the Raymond Avenue Crips, East Coast Crips, Neighborhood Crips, Rolling Hundreds, and more recently, the Main Street Mafia Crips. A notable feud with the Denver Lane Bloods has even led to the encroachment of Denver Lane Bloods into territories traditionally held by the 112 Hoover Criminals gang. The 1990s saw an escalation in violence, marked by the Anybody Killer ethos, which led to numerous gang-related shootings and contributed to making certain areas in Los Angeles highly dangerous for residents. The Hoover Criminals have also engaged in a lethal conflict with South Los 13, a Sereno gang, further intensifying the gang violence in the region.
Gang competition for drug millions has led two LA gangs, the Crips and the Bloods, to expand to the northwest, battling for turf in Seattle and Portland. Seattle police say that 7 people have been killed there this year in drug gang-related shootings. 387 were killed in such crimes in LA.
In the 1980s, efforts to expand drug operations saw the Hoover Criminals extending their reach beyond Los Angeles to cities like Seattle, Houston, Portland, and Oklahoma City. Interestingly, many Hoover sets outside Los Angeles continue to identify with the Crips rather than the criminals. For instance, the 7-4 Hoover Crips in Seattle, established by George Edward Hendricks, Jr., or OG, became one of the largest Hoover sets outside Los Angeles until his death in 2006. Portland, Oregon, hosts a notably active branch of the Hoover Criminals, including the 112, 107, and 7-4 Hoover sets, mirroring the rivalry dynamic seen in Los Angeles, particularly against the Rollin 60s Neighborhood Crips. The Hoover Criminals gang has been represented in various forms of media, shedding light on their influence and the broader context of gang culture in South Los Angeles. The 1992 film South Central, produced by Warner Bros. And based on the novel South Central LA, Crips by Donald Bakir, draws inspiration from the real-life dynamics of the Hoover Criminals gang. In the film, Glenn Plummer portrays Bobby Johnson, a character associated with the fictional Hoover Street Deuces, a gang that mirrors the actual Hoover Criminals gang. In the music industry, the influence of the Hoover Criminals extends to artists such as Schoolboy Q, a rapper signed to Top Dog Entertainment and affiliated with the 5 Deuce Hoover's Criminals gang. Schoolboy Q is part of the rap group Black Heppy, alongside J-Rock, associated with the Bounty Hunter Bloods, and Kendrick Lamar from Compton, California. In the heart of South Los Angeles, on the streets bordered by 43rd and Hoover, a significant chapter in the city's history unfolded. The 4 Trey Hoover Criminals gang, originating in the vibrant yet tumultuous 1970s, marked the beginning of a new era in the streets of West Side LA. Born from the spirited Hoover Groovers, the four Trey Hoovers were pivotal in shaping the landscape of gang affiliations in LA. Their alliance with a formidable group led by Tookie, known as the West Side Crips, catalyzed a transformation, rebranding the Hoovers into a Crips faction. This evolution saw the four Trey Hoover Crips emerging as a significant force, embodying the complexities of street alliances and rivalries. The 1990s were a turning point. The Hoover Crips found themselves amidst an escalating conflict with the neighborhood Crips, a feud that would redefine their identity. Transitioning from Crips to criminals, they charted a new path, distinct from their beginnings. Yet, this era brought challenges, leading to a decline in their presence by the mid-90s. Now, the once formidable four Trey Hoovers have receded into the backdrop of South LA's history, their activities fading into silence. But the echoes of their legacy offer a window into the complex tapestry of the city's gang history. The four Trey Hoover Criminals gang story is also one of intricate rivalries and fleeting alliances. Once embroiled in bitter disputes with groups like the Rolling 40s Crips, Rolling 30s Harlem Crips, and the First Street East Coast Crips, their narrative is a testament to the ever-changing dynamics of gang affiliations in Los Angeles.
Nigga, I walk through the turf. Oh, my Hoovers. Watch this car, cuz. Crip. Oh, yeah, we in the turf. Walking through the hood. Oh, shit.
My whole life around gangsters. Don't hang around nothing that ain't like us. 20 cold, make them put away. Gang.
It's on Hoover. Look, the real looks outside on hers. On Hoover. Hey.
Welcome to our exploration of the Five Deuce Hoover Gangster Crips, a significant presence on the streets of South Los Angeles, California. Originating in the 1970s around 52nd and Hoover Street, this group has left an indelible mark on the community and the broader landscape of gang affiliations in LA. The Five Deuce Hoovers carved their niche in a vibrant yet challenging era, distinguishing themselves with blue and orange colors, symbols of their Crips affiliation and Hoover heritage. Unique among Hoover subsets, they retained the Crips identity, standing out in a complex tapestry of street affiliations. The 1980s saw the Five Deuce Hoovers and the 7-4 Hoovers at the center of South Central's drug trade, operating numerous drug houses and allegedly amassing significant wealth. This period underscored the group's influence and the challenges faced by the community during a tumultuous time in LA's history. The influence of the Five Deuce Hoovers extended far beyond Los Angeles, with subsets emerging in cities like Houston, Washington, New York, and New Jersey. In the intricate web of gang dynamics, the Five Deuce Hoovers have forged alliances with groups like the Trouble Gangster Crips and the Broadway Gangster Crips, while also facing opposition from rivals including the 5-9 East Coast Crips, Rolling 50s Neighborhood Crips, and others.
Shut up, baby, read, that's my little dog, he goes dumb, nigga.
In this episode, we're taking a closer look at the 5-9 Hoover Criminals Gang, a pivotal group in the tapestry of South Los Angeles' street dynamics. Originating in the 1970s, the 5-9 Hoover Criminals have been a defining presence in the area, evolving from their roots as a subset of the expansive Hoover Criminals Gang. The 5-9 Hoovers have crafted a distinctive identity, often symbolized by their innovative use of 5-9 to replace the OO in Hoover, a detail frequently mirrored in street art and tags across their territory. This signature style marks their influence and claims their space between the 5 Deuce Hoover Crips and the 7-4 Hoover Criminals Gang. Strategically located between these significant factions, the 5-9 Hoovers navigate a complex web of alliances and rivalries. Their solidarity with the Hoover Criminals Gang network forms the backbone of their alliances. However, the landscape of their rivalries is vast, including intense feuds with groups like the 6 Deuce East Coast Crips, 6 Deuce Harvard Park Brims, and the Rolling 40s Neighborhood Crips, painting a vivid picture of the ongoing tensions that define much of South LA's gang.
On enemigos, this deuce to get loose and make a whole pool juice. Man, you dudes better get those. See them dudes, they gang.
Today, we're focusing on the 7-4 Hoover Criminals Gang, also known as the 7-4 Hoover Criminals Gang, a significant presence in South Central Los Angeles for over 3 decades. Originally known as the 7-4 Hoover Crips up until the early 1990s, the 7-4 Hoovers underwent a transformation, aligning more closely with the Hoover Criminals Gang. This change marked a new chapter for the group, emphasizing their distinct identity within the larger Hoover network. Situated around 74th and Hoover Street, the gang, affectionately known as the Bay Bays, has become a formidable force in the area. Their long-standing presence and activities have shaped much of the neighborhood's dynamics, making them the 3rd largest subset within the Hoover Criminals Gang. During the 1980s, the 7-4 Hoovers, alongside the 5 Deuce Hoover gangster Crips, were central figures in South Central's drug trade, reportedly generating substantial revenue. This period highlighted the gang's influence, but also brought increased scrutiny from law enforcement. The complex tapestry of gang alliances and rivalries paints a vivid picture of life in South Central. The 7-4 Hoovers maintain alliances with groups like the Shotgun Crips and the Insane Crips, while navigating hostilities with several other gangs, including the Rolling 60s Neighborhood Crips and the 7-6 East Coast Crips, among others.
Fucking stay low, baby. We in this mother home. Hey, third. We in this mother. Yeah, we in this mother.
Don't land on that. Hold on. Oh, it's so ho. Look it up. Yeah, that's so ho. Yeah, gang in the building.
Big mad ass anything.
That's so ho. See how gang come through the building on Hoover Street.
Go with blue. Go with blue.
Oh, that's so ho. Go to Loke in the cut. The Lokes right here. Yeah, homies, a couple Lokes.
Today, we dive into the story of the 8-Trey Hoover Criminals Gang, a prominent group in the tapestry of South Los Angeles' complex gang dynamics. This group, with over 3 decades of history, stands as the largest subset within the Hoover Criminals Gang umbrella. Emerging from the streets around 83rd and Hoover, the 8-Trey Hoovers, nicknamed the Rascals, have carved out a significant presence in their neighborhood. Their journey from being known as the 8-Trey Hoover Crips to the current Hoover Criminals Gang reflects a broader narrative of change and adaptation within gang cultures. The 8-Trey Hoovers have managed to assert their dominance in an area fraught with rivalries and conflicts, maintaining a stronghold despite the adversities posed by their numerous rivals. Their story is a stark reminder of the challenges faced by communities caught in the crossfire of gang violence. In the intricate web of gang affiliations, the 8-Trey Hoover criminals maintain alliances with groups like the Shotgun Crips, uniting against common adversaries such as the Rolling 60s Neighborhood Crips. This landscape of alliances and rivalries underscores the complex social structures that govern life in South.
EST with no V-neck, Norman I slide, he's smutty gang man. Hoover. Back on enemigos, this deuce to get loose and make a whole pool juice.
Shots, I'm still not easing up. Mad ass anything. Doobie, I'm a goof for you. Know some lows bound to shoot. Orange Chuck, get the boots. Slime with you right or wrong, I call you my brother.
Look at these boys. Fast and ski ski.
I'm a pain. Death threats. Been thugging for 16 years and ain't left yet. So you know you can't wet me. I keep a couple miles on my body like Koski.
We explore the 9 Deuce Hoover Criminals Gang, also known as the Doulos, a notable subset of the expansive Hoover Criminals gang network in Los Angeles. With origins tracing back to the 1970s, this group has established its presence in the area around 92nd and Hoover Street, marking a significant chapter in the story of South Los Angeles. Initially known as the 9 Deuce Hoover Crips, this group underwent a transformation alongside other Hoover sets, evolving into the Hoover Criminals Gang. Despite being smaller in size, their impact and activity levels have been notable in the history of gang dynamics within South Central LA. The 9 Deuce Hoovers maintain strong ties with fellow Hoover subsets, particularly the 9-4 Hoover Criminals Gang, with who they share a close alliance termed Doulos Down. Their history is also marked by intense rivalries with other gangs, including the Rolling 90s West Coast Crips and various Gangster Crips sets, highlighting the intricate and often volatile landscape of gang affiliations in the area.
That's all that, bro. 9-4, you know what time it is. Danny, Hoover Street, though.
It's the set.
Yeah, nigga.
Yeah.
Don't get the car.
Set.
Yeah. Boo-boo. Give me a picture, bro. Give me a picture, too.
I can't take no picture. We out of here.
Hey, fuck. Hey.
Today, we dive into the history of the 9-4 Hoover Criminals Gang, also known as the Lowdowns. This group is a prominent subset of the larger Hoover Criminals Gang, with roots deeply embedded in the streets of West Side South Los Angeles, around 94th Street. Emerging in the 1970s as the 9-4 Hoover Crips, this gang carved out a notorious reputation for violence in the 80s and early 90s. Their story is a stark reflection of the broader shifts in gang identity within LA, transitioning from Crips to criminals as part of a larger movement within the Hoover sets. The 94 Hoovers have built strong alliances within the Hoover family, particularly with the 9 Deuce Hoover Criminal Gang, united under the banner of Doulos Down. Their history is also marked by intense rivalries, standing against groups like the 9-8 Main Street Mafia Crips and various Gangster Crips sets, along with East Coast Crips and Neighborhood Crips. These conflicts and alliances paint a complex picture of gang dynamics in South LA.
He was a 107 Hoover Crip. 107 Hoover Crip. And not ever go against that. 107 Hoover Crip. We stand firm, we're a family. We watch each other's back. Say no. So 107 is about. Say low. Say low. Say low. Low. Low.
7-Eleven, yo.
Everybody out here that fell up under the guidance of 107, you've been warned. This is Crip or die.
Females and up.
You have been warned. Homeboys, homegirls.
Young life.
If you're not with it, you shouldn't even be here.
Get off my life, that bad. Fuck sissies, nigga. Sissies, oh killer. Yeah, homie, nigga. That. Get off my life, punk. Dead homies. Sissies.
Fuck y'all talking about what's a 107? Clock. I'm frontline orange in y'all section. 100 West Side Hoover.
Public quick, take a chance, I'ma make it. If you need some treatment, I'm your doctor, you my patient. If you acting up, turn around and get the spanking. We not even far, but I'll fly you out to Vegas, put you in the room, and that can be.
The 107 Hoover Criminals Gang, also known as 107 Groove Gang or Cellos, and formerly known as 107 Hoover Crips Gang, are a long-standing African-American criminal street gang located on the west side of South Central Los Angeles, California. The 107 Hoover Criminals are an active subset of the larger Hoover Criminals gang umbrella. The 107 Hoover Criminals gang originated in the 1970s, around 107th Street and Hoover Street, between Vermont Avenue and Figueroa Avenue. They often refer to themselves as 107 Groove Gang, to pay homage to the original Hoover Groovers. However, the Hoover Groovers eventually turned Crips, Hoover Gang Crips, and later turned Criminals, Hoover Criminals Gang. The 107 Hoover Criminals Gang are allies of all Hoover Criminal Gangs, especially the 112 Hoover Criminals Gang. They are rivals of the underground Crips and the Bud Long Gangster Crips, as well as the 104 Hustler Crips. Their main blood rival is the larger Denver Lane Bloods. In the last year or two, OGs from 107 Hoover returned to the streets from incarceration and reinstated the set's Crip identity. The 107 Hoovers are now freshly 107 Hoover Crips, making them the second last Hoover/Crip gang.
High-speed chase, do you know how to lose the cops? Our helicopters, do you know how to lose the chop?
Join us as we delve into the history of the 112 Hoover Criminals Gang, also known as the Lay Lows, a group with deep roots in the west side of South Los Angeles. As a subset of the larger Hoover Criminals Gang, the 112 Hoovers have been a part of the city's complex gang narrative since the 1970s, originating around 112th Street. This gang has weathered the decades, evolving while maintaining its presence in the community. Their journey from the original Hoover Crips to their current identity as Hoover Criminals reflects significant shifts within LA's gang landscape, strongly allied with fellow Hoover sets, especially the 107 Hoover Criminals Gang. The 112 Hoovers have navigated the challenges of gang life with notable solidarity. Their long-standing rivalry with the Denver Lane Bloods, among others, underscores the fraught relations that have historically characterized South Central's gang dynamics. These are some Hoover rappers from all over the United States: Schoolboy Q, LA 5 Deuce Hoover Gangster Crips, Jap 5, LA 107 Hoover Criminals, Young Threat, LA 8 Trey Hoover Criminals, Treyway 6K, LA 8 Trey Hoover Criminals, Swift Chapo, LA 5 Deuce Hoover Gangster Crips, King Trell, LA 5 Deuce Hoover Gangster Crips, Hope, LA 9-4 Hoover Criminals, Heartless, LA 7-4 Hoover Criminals, Alshon Martin, LA 9 Deuce Hoover Criminals, Shorty, Baltimore 7-4 Hoover Criminals, NFL Cartel Bo, Houston 5 Deuce Hoover Gangster Crips, Doughboy Sauce, Houston 5 Deuce Hoover Gangster Crips, Zero, Houston 5 Deuce Hoover Gangster Crips, King Kush, Brooklyn 5 Deuce Hoover Gangster Crips, IAs, Fort Worth 5 Deuce Hoover Gangster Crips, Young Coast Tomato, Brooklyn 5 Deuce Hoover Gangster Crips, Fifth Ward JP, Houston 5 Deuce Hoover Gangster Crips, Ink Jack Boy, Mississippi 9-4 Hoover Criminals, 4500 New, Louisiana 5 Deuce Hoover Gangster Crips, Hugh Hitter, Mississippi 9-4 Hoover Criminals. The legacy of the Hoover Criminal Gangs is a testament to the enduring and complex nature of gang culture in South Los Angeles. From their origins as the Hoover Groovers to their current status, the Hoovers have navigated a landscape marked by rivalry, alliance, and transformation. Their story is not just one of conflict and violence, but also of community identity and survival in the face of socio-economic challenges. As we reflect on the history of the Hoover Criminal Gangs, we are reminded of the broader narrative of urban life in Los Angeles, where the echoes of the past continue to shape the realities of the present and the possibilities of the future.